All right, so slope. So what is it basically? It's something that basically it tells you how steep your line is, okay, and also it tells you what direction it's going. Okay, so suppose that I have a graph here. You guys can draw this with me. I'm only going to do the top right half of the graph here. And let's just say that I have one point here and one point here. And we'll say that the coordinates of this point over here is x1 and y1. And we'll say that the coordinates of this point over here are x2 and y2. So I told you slope is basically like the steepness of your line. So I mean, think about, you're going mountain climbing. The more the mountain goes in an upward direction, the harder it is to climb because the amount you're rising is more for every step you take, right? So if you're on a pretty flat ground, you might be taking a step and only rising this much, but if you're on a really steep mountain, every time you take a step, it's higher, and that makes it harder because you're fighting more gravity, right? So the more rise you have, the steeper it is, right? And the more run you have, the less steep it is. So, you could go from here to the top of a mountain. You ever notice how, like, whenever they make roads on mountains, they don't just go straight up the mountain, they kind of go around it, right? That's because they're increasing the run. They're making you go more distance before you go up because it's easier. Does that make sense? So more rise makes it steeper. More run makes it flatter. Does that make sense? So the steepness of a line is really dependent on two things. What's your rise and what's your run, right? And so you guys might remember now, rise over run, that's slope. So if I'm going from this point to this point, the question is how much am I rising and how much am I running? So I have to go up this high, right? Now, if I were to say to you guys that, let me give you a number line. Don't draw this on your notes, but just look for a second. Let's say that somebody's standing here at, we'll call that coordinate 2. And then someone else is standing over here. And let's say they're standing at 20. How far apart are they?
18.
18? Now, why is it 18? How do you know that?
Because 22.2 is 18.
So if you want to find the distance between 2 points, you subtract the numbers, right? Okay. So I want to know how high up I go from this point to get to this point up here. Well, how high up is this one? Well, the height of that point is the y value. How high up is this one? It's that y value. So if I want to find out how high up I went, what's my rise, I would have to subtract them, right? And so this distance here that I just drew, this dotted line, if you take this last y value and subtract from it your first y value, that'll tell you how high up you went. Now, if you want to find out how far over you went, what do you think you're going to do? Subtract the x's, because the x's tell you about the horizontal amount. So that's my run, that's my rise, and so slope, as we've already discussed in the last classes, you guys remember rise over run, but a way you can calculate slope is by subtracting your y's and dividing that by the subtraction of your x's. Okay. So that is our slope formula there. I don't know if that's on another slide coming up. Let me see.
It is.
Is it? Okay, so we don't need to emphasize it. It's on another slide. All right. So that's the slope formula, and it tells you the steepness. Remember, the greater the distance between your y's, the steeper your line will be. Or the greater the distance between your x's, the flatter your line will be. And then it's like a relationship between them. Okay, so they put them together like that. Can I erase? Good morning. Am I good to go? I don't want to leave anybody behind. All right. Oh, did you? Okay. I saw you shaking your head out of the corner of my eye. Thank you. Okay, I'll wait a second. So here's how we find slope. You're gonna start off with 2 points. Okay. You're going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2. It doesn't matter which one you do it to. Armani, do you have a brother? What's his name? Neon. Okay. So is he older or younger than you? Okay. So his parents might have chosen to name his brother Armani, and he might have chosen to name him Dion. It doesn't really matter. You make up the name you want. Okay. It matters now, though. It matters now. You don't want to be calling Armani Dion. But the point is that when it comes to naming something, it doesn't matter which one you call which. It's up to you. So same thing with these points. Whichever one you want to call x1, y1, x2, y2, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah, it's completely random when it comes to naming things. You can do however you want to. But what does matter is that you put the ones together and the twos together. All right, now, the formula looks like this. And that's what we saw in the last slide. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, that's your rise over run. After that, we got to just simplify it, which usually involves subtraction or reducing, and that's about it. And then you can see how much am I rising, how much am I running, and that'll tell you how steep your line is. Okay, and that's slope. Now you'll notice I put parentheses on here. The reason I do that is for negatives. Sometimes I like to just start off like this with blanks, and then I plug my numbers into those blanks. Now the reason I like the parentheses there is because sometimes we have to plug in a negative. Like if I put a negative here, well in that case I've got double negatives. And what happens with double negatives? They cancel and become a positive, right? So now the problem is without those parentheses, you can tell. It's just that sometimes, like I've just noticed that if those parentheses aren't there and somebody has to plug in a negative 2, sometimes they'll just put the 2 there, think, oh, well, there's the negative already. I don't have to do it. It's like, no, that's not true. That minus is part of the formula. You still have to put the negative in there. So by separating it with parentheses, I feel like it's a nice visual aid. But, you know, that's how I'm going to go about it. Now, since we have a rally today, I'm going to skip the first one here. We're just going to do number 2 to begin with here. So let's do our first example. The first thing I want you guys to do is I want you guys to do this. I want you guys to tell me what are the coordinates for this point and what are the coordinates for this point. Write that down on your paper. I've given you 2 points. Yeah, the example 1. Isn't it on there?
It's on the paper.
Yeah, it's on the bottom left. Bottom left. Bottom left. So just put the coordinates on your paper there. And if you want to check your answer with a neighbor, I'm going to call on you to share those out in a moment. So put the coordinates on your paper, check with a neighbor, and I'll call on you to share out in a minute. When you're labeling, when you're putting numbers in there, remember, is it positive or negative? And also, which one comes first, the x or the y? Those are the 2 things we have to think about when we set up our coordinates. All right, so there's our coordinates. So we needed to figure out those numbers first. All right, now we're going to follow the steps on the paper there. So I look at the last slide. And Miles, what's the first step tell us to do? On the slide before this one, there were some steps, step 1, 2, and 3. What does it say? You can just read it right off the paper. Okay, so label your points. So we're going to name these. I'm going to call this one Armani. I'm going to call this one Dion. Just kidding. We're going to call this X1, Y1. We're going to call this X2, Y2. So that's step 1. Label your points. All right, so let's take a look at step 2. Sophia, what's this? Ask your question again. I'm sorry. Oh, so you're saying this is a 3? But I call it Y2. So it's kind of like a name. So it's like what's your height? How tall are you? 5'2". So I could name you 5'2" if I want to. Well, no, I can't. I'm not your parents or the government, so I can't do that. But your name's Kimura, right? Well, this point's height is 3, but its name is Y2. Yeah. So, all right. So, step 2. I'm going to ask Sophia. Would you read step 2 to us? Did I put the steps on? Yeah. I did right there. So when I want you guys to read the steps, I'm talking about this slide here. This is the steps, the one right before this one. Hi, Leah. Oh. I think Sophia's got it, but maybe I'll come to you for 3. You're good. All right. So I want you guys to see if you can plug that in. Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. See if you can put the numbers in the right spot, okay? Poor dog. I'm just joking. Yeah, it was a golf cart. I'm just making a joke. All right, if you guys want to check your answer with someone, I'm going to call on you to share out what you got there. What did you plug in the blanks? Y2 goes here. Y1 goes here. X2 goes here. X1 goes here. The numbers that go with those. All right, so let's see what you guys got. Azalea, what did you put here? -3. So that's so you could. Did you listen to the wrong person? You saw you turn around and laugh at somebody there. So try again. This is Y2. You want to tell me what Y2 is? Yeah. So we're going to put a 3 there. All right, let's do another one here. Kevin, what goes here? Huh? This guy? This guy? Okay, so this says Y1, right? Do you see Y1 up here? Right there? What number is it? That's what we're putting in there. Let's try again. Shakir, what goes here? I agree. All right. Jasmine. What goes here? I agree. All right. What happens on the top here? Something interesting happens.
That cancels.
The double negatives become positive, right? I think the same thing happens down here. So what's the top going to be? 3 plus 3 in the bottom. So now we're going to, so Leah, what's the third step? Yes, that's right. Now on the paper I put simplify, but it means two things. You're going to add or subtract, and then she said divide, or you could also say reduce. So what's 6 over 3 simplifying to? Yeah. So you could just divide it, like 6 divided by 3. There you go. Now they won't always divide evenly, so if they don't, reduce it. So find what divides into both and just divide them both by that number, and that's how you reduce a fraction. Why don't you guys give this one a try here? You're not going to do number 1 right now. It's not, the only difference between number 1 and number 2 is instead of me giving you a picture on number 1, I just give you the points right away. So you would.
The same points, though.
No, it's a different problem. Number 1 is a problem, and number 2 is a separate problem. But I don't graph it. I just give you the points, so you would label it and do the same thing. But number 2, you have to get the points yourself. So go ahead and do number 2 here. Give you guys a little bit of time to mess around with it. See how you do. Pass. So right now, you want to start by filling in your coordinates, labeling them. Well done. You're good. Finish your student practice. Which one? So if these were the points, that would So what divides into 2 and 4? And that's how you do it. So, okay. Yeah. 130. More, they want you in room 130. I guess. I don't know where that is, honestly. I've never heard of one of these. Yeah. Sure, 130. Maybe just ask the security guard. Fill that out really quick. All right.
You said room 310?
130.
No.
It doesn't matter. You're good. So we should be getting -1/2. Can you put your hand in the air if you got -1/2 real quick? Keep it up there. Everybody looking around. If you didn't get -1/2, then talk to that person. I'll give you about another minute or two and take a look at their paper, see what they did, see what maybe didn't go well for you. But you should have gotten -1/2. All right. So let me use my cards here. Leah, what coordinates did you get for this point on the left here? Great job. All right. Now, any questions about that? Why that is, or? Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other one there. Denise, what did you get for this point? Oh, Denise is gone. I forgot she left. My bad. Amaya, what did you get for this point?
I got -1 Oh wait. Oh, that was the wrong question. My bad.
Yeah, that guy.
I got 2 and 0.
2-0. Any questions about that one? Okay. All right, I'm going to label these. Now, Natalie was asking, well, she's like, which one do we need? I think this might have been your question. Oh, that question could have gone a few different ways, but which one do we name? And it doesn't matter which one you name, X1, Y1, X2, Y2. Did anybody label it differently, put the ones down here? You did? Did anybody else do that? You did? You did? So did you guys get the answer? If you didn't get it right, then I would encourage you to erase your it's not that you can't label it that way. It's just that you want to be able to write down a correct thing on your paper. So if you didn't get it right, then erase your label and put mine, because I'm going to go with this one, okay? But it doesn't matter how you label them technically. So if you didn't get it right, something else happened along the way. All right, let's see here. Aaliyah, what do I do now? Plug into the formula. Nice job. All right, so our formula has a y2 here, a y1 here. You don't have to write these letters. I'm just doing that as a visual aid to help remind you guys what letters go where. But Shamani, what number do I put here? You have 4 choices. You want y2. Nice. Good job. And Michael, which one goes here? Uh-huh. And then Crystal. Good. I agree. And then Natalie, what would I put here? Yes. Okay. You guys are doing great. I only saw half people get the answers, but yet I'm calling on you guys, and you guys are doing really good. So let's keep going here. Jeremiah's not here, so we'll skip that. Adriana, what's the top going to be? Good. And then, actually, I'm going to ask you for the bottom too. What about the bottom? It is 4. So now, the double negatives, right? Make a positive. Now that won't always happen. It's just if you have double negatives, right? So it's 4. Now, I did see quite a few people get here, but then they didn't go the last step, which is to reduce. And that's because on my problem I didn't really reduce per se. I divided, but it's really the same thing. So let's review how to reduce a fraction real quick. Adrian, to reduce a fraction, you divide the top and the bottom by something that can divide both of them. What number goes into both 2 and 4? Yeah, so let's do that. Let's divide the top by 2, and let's divide the bottom by 2. Edwin, if I divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2, what will I have? There you go, and there's my slope. So my rise, after all this math, we know how steep our line is now. That means I go down 1 every time I go over 2. That's the steepness of my line. All right. I want to throw another one at you now. So hopefully that was helpful to kind of like see that one worked out and you guys got to mess with it. Let's see if we can make this happen a little bit here. I want to do one more before we call it a day. I'll try to make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see because I don't have it printed for you. I did want to do some other things today, but you can't do the next part until this part's good, and only having half of you guys get this first part isn't going to be good enough. We need to try a little more. So we'll practice this again. So try that guy there. It's going to be kind of tough to see the numbers here. I'll try to label them. But do your best to. I see you, Lil. Just a sec. There you go. See how you do with that one. What's that? Yeah. You don't have to draw this graph. I just want to give you guys a chance to practice. So you can draw the graph. It's just that I would rather you just do the problem honestly than spend time drawing it. Just so I want to make sure you guys get a chance to really master one of these before we call it a day. So, yeah, I would just stick with that. So the reason that's same is not because you did these, but you put y2 here, y2. The reason why is because you need these twos and these ones. that's okay. You can do that. It doesn't matter which pair you follow. But when you do your formula, just make sure you stick to that. Nope. Yeah, it'll work out either. You know, and I'd like to hear you guys share a little bit about math more in here. So check with your neighbors, like, hey, what did you get for these points? What numbers did you get for those? You know, hey, when you plug that into the formula, can I see how you plug that formula? Make sure I did it the way you did it, and if we didn't, maybe we can ask Mr. Bailey. Then we get your final answer. Hey, what would you get? I'm curious if we got the same thing. Teamwork is really effective. You know how they always make that joke, like Asian people are good at math? People make that stereotype. Well, it's actually true. Asian people do pretty well at math, and they did a study on it. They found out one of the things that makes them so successful at math is that they do it in groups. And when they're in college, they get together in big groups and they work together. They don't isolate. And so teamwork is very important for success. So.
-1, -3, and 0. No, cool.
Oh, that's a -1.
What the hell?
So what you always do is B take away B, B take away
Wait, so this would be
Okay, so from
So
wait,
it
okay,
would
yeah.
be 4 to 0.
If you switch it, it's gonna be the same answer. It's like
Right.
Just apart, there's one error, but I
At the
don't
bottom,
want
it
to
was just -1.
But in this form, it would be just negative, or it would be 3.
Then everything hurt you.
so it would be 4.
-4.
Other than that.
Oh no, the 3 is not negative. 3 is not negative.
No, it is.
It is.
Yes, it is. Oh, no, it's
So,
not.
just so you know, you should be getting 1.
But it's still taking it.
You should be getting
Oh, well,
a
I
slope
guess.
of 1.
Oh, because since he has a 0 on this side and on that, I would say this one is minus negative.
Or y'all supposed to tell me.
Okay. Look, we have the same formula. Because
And now you can label x1,
so
y2.
I got the same formula as zeros on that. So what do you do? And then the 3 on the bottom on the left side.
You know how it's on the board.
Oh, you switched it.
Yeah, and then since this is minus negative, I just put both of them as plus.
I have a hard time So you label helps. So let's label. Let's be careful. So now, this guy, what's the next one? In other words, how far?
Are you for real? Is it time to go? Oh, why is everybody texting?
The next one is how far up?
Let's.
Oh, yeah, they cut the time. That is so big difference in what time we're supposed to
Wait,
get
so
out
things are-
now. They basically switched it, yeah. Like, is it Tuesday? Yeah, it's basically Tuesday schedule. Oh, great.
This is showing me.
Because they switched it. You should have got, your teacher should have gave you. Oh, I didn't.
I did
Wait.
not know what was going on.
I'm like stressing.
All right, guys, have a good weekend.
You too, Mr. Bailey.
It's now.
Why is everybody
I was like,
That's how far down it is. That's my Y-Lex.
Wow.
Samani.
Yes. Mom, there's a tough road today, so.
It's kind of hard to see it all the way up here, but this point is, it's over one space to the left, one space, so it's -1.
Yeah, there's a tough road, so.
Now, I don't want to keep you too much longer because you want your break. You're welcome to hang out if you want to, but
No, I should
That-
have checked
I
the
would
school
start
email.
that.
They probably told us, right?
They didn't.
Okay, bye.
Oh, yes, of course. Anytime you're absent.
No, but I mean, I
want
have,
some handouts, you can either print
like,
them out,
I
because they're on
only
Google
have 2
Classroom,
periods. in
or I'll
person,
put my
so, like,
extras right
I would get out earlier because my second period will be shortened too. So, like,
Right, it would be like,
because I only have first and second period.
Not in this class, get out.
Well, I mean, it's not.
it's not.
So
It's
today.
not that glamorous. I mean, it's just independent study.
Yeah, just come on in. I'll give you.
Personally,
I
I'd
have a
rather
class during your lunch. but that's
In
okay.
school?
I'm
Remember me,
behind,
mister?
so I
I
have-
class last year.
Huh?
Oh my god.
Remember me?
No.
Wait,
You
do
didn't
we
remember
really
class last
did?
year.
Do we still have the 10-minute break? Or do we have to like rush the class?
No, that's
Okay.
hard.
I was like scared. Okay. Could you also like, this is probably kind of cheating. But, like, oh, can you send me? Well, I can check.
It's kind of like cheating, but like, can't you just figure it out by doing this? Like, because it's 1 over, because it's 1 over
Yes,
1,
yeah.
and you just,
You can.
whatever the rise and the run is. I mean, I don't do it that way. 'Cause
No.
I know you want us to show our
No,
work. but,
no,
like,
I actually, Crystal, I think that's completely fine.
Okay, and then on our homework, it's probably gonna have graphs. So like again, I don't have to draw the graph. I just do the formula on the homework.
That's fine, yeah. Thank you for asking, yeah.